Hello and welcome to Sports Talk. My name is Jamie Koepp and I'll be the host for today's show. Our guest is Mike Stiedl. There's going to be a lot of hats he's going to wear, but I'm going to introduce him as an official from the southeastern Wisconsin area. Mike, welcome to the show.
It's my pleasure to be here, Jamie. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. How about a little personal background about yourself that you care to share with the viewers?
Well, I was a high school teacher for 35 years, spent 35 years in the classroom. I've been officiating at the high school and college level in basketball and softball for about 30 years. When I retired, I took up volleyball, so I do a little volleyball on the side here, but my main passions are basketball and softball, although I will tell you that volleyball is the most exciting sport that I work.
Okay.
And it's a sport that I'm still growing. Well, I'm always growing as an official or umpire, but I'm still growing into my role as a volleyball official. Not quite as comfortable with that as I am with the other couple of sports.
Was sports always a part of your life growing up?
Absolutely, okay. Just a way for me to meet people, make friends, test myself a little bit. I was never very good, okay, but I always enjoyed the competition, always enjoyed playing.
Did you have a favorite sport or two that you liked growing up?
I enjoyed basketball mostly,
Okay.
Yes, basketball. Like I said, not very good. You know, I was always probably the 9th or 10th person on the team, but got a little bit of playing time here and there, but nothing spectacular.
There's always a few exceptions to the rule, but I think for the most part, both coaches and officials, they're better at both the coaching position and as an official when they weren't the star.
I would concur, okay? You know you have to work at things. You know you have to get, nothing is given to you, nothing is there for you unless you take it, unless you work hard for it. So yeah, I would think that some people who had to work a little bit harder for things probably do get a little bit better.
I think about the coaching world for people, and they just expect the kids to be able to do the things they could do naturally versus learning. And I think there's so much, from an official standpoint, from watching so many things, it's so interesting to me, especially with the transition from 2-person to 3-person, and people watching the show now most of them probably don't remember there being a 3-person versus the lower levels where the varsity used to be 2. I think it's so intriguing when there's a veteran official and you see an elbow go or you see something happen and they're not sure what happened and they don't call the retaliation. They don't know what happened beforehand, but they also, instead of standing in that same footprint spot, will kind of squirm a little bit, a foot or two this way and an angle this way, just because when you've played the game, you also understand those little gaps in those little areas that are open too.
Angles are everything, okay? One of our mantras is try not to be straight lined. You can't look through players, so we always want to have an angle to see things. Angle over distance all the time, all the time.
When things transition from 2-person to 3-person, do you have more experience as a 3-person or did you have more experience on the front end as a 2-person?
I probably now have more experience as a 3-person official. It is something that now we've had 3-person officiating here in Wisconsin for probably 10, 12 years now. And when we first transitioned, it was be careful what you ask for. We worked so hard with ADs and school districts to get 3-person mechanics, and then we have it. And we have officials who probably, if we didn't have 3-person mechanics, they'd probably still be working JV ball or freshman ball, but now because of the need for that third official, they're working 30, 35 high school varsity games a year, and not a lot of experience to back up those situations sometimes.
It's one of my comparisons between coaches along with officials. And I don't know if it's always the best combination. The example I use is John Hoke at Thomas More, who's obviously a close and a dear friend. I think about him being the freshman coach for 15 years at Thomas More and paying his dues. And then, he's been a close friend for 20 years. And then going to Shorewood, then coming back. In our combination right now in the last 5 years or so is so many young coaches, there's a sense of entitlement, like I'm ready. And they come up, and some of it's just athletic departments because you don't have the number of coaches.
Correct.
When last year we applied, or we posted the position 2 years ago, when I hired Jim O'Leary, the old athletic director at Oconomowoc, has been our boys coach for 2 years. and he just recently resigned, and he's a wonderful man. I don't know if you
I know
crossed
Jim.
paths
Yes.
with him or not, but
Yes.
no one will ever say an ill word about him. You know, he's kind and very friendly. But we had 6 applicants. And when I think about when I came back out to Watertown, there was 126. It was just a different time.
A different.
You know, and I think about the combination of where you mentioned the referees being bounced up early
Yep.
because of 3-person, and I think of the coaches piece because one, there's such fewer teachers that are coaching, especially for a higher number of years than in the past. It's the perfect storm on the wrong side of very young and immature coaches, and without the experience, and then the one ref maybe of the 3 that's just kind of breaking in and probably breaking in a little bit too early.
Too early. I'm glad you mentioned John. John is such a wonderful guy. I have so much respect for John. I felt so bad for Thomas More this year in what happened.
I did too, and I don't think he could have handled it any better.
And you know, class act all the way.
He's a great guy.
John's a great guy. I'll miss him on the sideline.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but the officials who are brought up too early sometimes have that sense of entitlement that you mentioned also, that when you were at Juneau and you know, we'd do your games, the JV officials would come in at halftime and listen to what we had to say, our pregame, our postgame. Now they're out of there just like that.
Right.
You know, hey, I've been officiating for 2 years. I deserve a full varsity schedule right now. And there is no such thing as paying dues anymore. And part of that is the shortage. I mean, we just don't have any, you know, officials. The same officials who were in the upper echelon of officials 25 years ago are still there.
Right.
You know, they are the same, you know, group of however many officials, and not many people coming up.
But now they're between 45 or 48 and much older.
Oh, yes. You have more officials 50 and over than you do 35 and younger.
Right.
No question about it. No question. And part of being a good official is communication, is game management, knowing what to say, when to say it, how to say it. And that's something that is a talent that has to be developed, I think, sometimes. I think it's very unusual for someone to have that innately, to be a good communicator, and it's something that is learned over time. And for me, the best communicator, or best officials are the best communicators. You know, when you're at a 10, Jamie, how do I bring you down to a 5?
Right.
Okay? How do we have a meaningful conversation? Okay? And
Well, it's going to be the whole thing. It's going to be your tone. It's going to be you know, not escalating a situation where there's so much emotion and things like that. And you know, now obviously it's such a different role for me. I try to make every official that comes in Watertown to make it their best experience. Has no bearing on the outcome. It could be in the locker room of chairs or Snicker bars or just separation or water, and just being escorted one way or the other and then back out. And we never talk outcome. We just reminisce type thing and just try to make it the best experience. It doesn't matter the sport, whatever it may be.
officials sometimes are afterthoughts at schools. You know, where we dress in a broom closet, or could we get a chair in here, please? Or can I have a water? You know, the schools that you go to where there's water there, you know, the game management says, what can I do for you guys? They meet you at the door. You know, if you need anything, I'll be over in the corner over here. Just, you know, give me the high sign and I'll come over and tell me what you need. You know, it's nice to feel welcome sometimes. And schools are getting better at that. But it's still sometimes a tough road to go into a school where no one meets you, you don't know where to go. If there's difficulty in the stands with fans, who do I go to? How is it handled? It's a difficult situation. I mean, parents sometimes are unreasonable, you know, and you know that.
Absolutely.
And that's the primary reason, in my opinion, why we have trouble retaining officials and recruiting officials. You know, for 3 or 4 years, our emphasis was on recruiting officials. Well, we need to do that, obviously,
Yeah,
but we also have to retain them. After 2 or 3 years, Some of them say, well, don't have a varsity schedule. I don't need this.
Or I'm sick of being yelled at.
I don't want to
years
be,
old.
yes, okay, I don't want to be yelled at, and, there's a little thick skin there once in a while,
Certainly.
okay, but the recruitment and retention of younger officials is the number one priority right now for my organization and most organizations in the state.
I have a crazy 3-person crew question, because I think when I was coaching, I think I had it wrong. But I would have preferred two referees that were familiar with each other at the time to be a 2-person crew than 3 strangers coming in together. And I know that there's certain, and I've learned this obviously, but I know that there's certainly certain areas and different things, but every coach wants to call right, even if it's a different person from a different area.
Right.
And I've always felt early on, and I don't see that same thing now, but there was a struggle with getting officials and getting 3-person. What are the thoughts there? Should 3 people, strangers, be able to come in and do a bang-up job, or are there little tough idiosyncrasies?
The idea is if you know the system, you should be able to work with anyone.
Okay.
Because we're all taught the same way. We're all taught the system in the same way, coverage area, movements, things like that. So if you don't know the 2 officials that I'm working with, that I walk in and, hi, how are you? We don't know each other. We should have a semblance of what's going on.
Okay.
It's, when you mentioned the 2 officials, Tom Diener, when he was at Vincent, he used to tell me all the time, I want 2 officials who know what they're doing instead of 3 officials who look like a Chinese fire drill out there, okay? And I think part of that was Tom ran so much stuff off the ball that stuff he
Right.
knew
You couldn't see it with 2
people
people.
couldn't get it,
Right.
okay? And then the 3rd official, that's why he's there, is to get that stuff off the ball. But yeah, he used to say,
Kind of on the weak side.
yes,
Yeah.
I want 2 officials who know what they're doing as opposed to 3 who are just 3 bodies out there.
I don't
and not
see that as
working in
much.
sync.
I don't see that as much recently, and it might be because there's different referees that are involved as commissioners or hiring or various things. Or there's so much. To me, there seems to be so much more official involvement. If that's people through, I was going to use the word agencies. That's not what I'm looking for. Associations.
Right.
That and now there's an increase of familiarity. So maybe there's a pool of 10 or 12 or 15 or 20 that it doesn't have to be the same person, but you're going to interject a little bit throughout the season.
Absolutely. I think some people think that officials just show up at the game 10 minutes before, do the game, and go home. They don't understand that we're there an hour before the game. We're talking about situations. We're pre-gaming. We're talking about emphasis on communication, on movement, on rotations. Officials go to camps in the summertime to be better. I wish more officials would, but the conscientious officials want to be better. Every time I step out on the court, I want to be better than I was last time, okay? And does it happen all the time? No, but
Right.
the mindset is you want to be better than you were last time. And I think we're having officials who are saying, yeah, I'm going to go to camp, okay? I'm going to learn some of the nuances, okay, of 3-person officiating, and I want to be better. For me, and a lot of veteran officials right now, mentorship is the number one reason we're still in the game. I think I can still referee, I can still run, I can still do a good job, but my days are gone. They're in the rearview mirror. And I want to be excited to see an official get his first regional game, to see that kid move up from doing grade school games to high school games, for the kid to get his first sectional assignment. That's where my joy comes from. That sparks joy in me. I still love to officiate. I still love to be out there. My best lifelong friends are officials, and it's a very bonded group.
I never thought of this until we're talking, and then put a couple parallels together. Maybe the 3-person crew in some ways has extended careers
No doubt.
as well.
No doubt. No doubt. It's not that, there is still running involved, but not as much running, okay? And one of the things I caution officials about too is just because we have 3 officials doesn't mean we have to hustle less. We have to try and strive for better position less than we did with 2-person. But no doubt it has extended careers, no doubt.
So as you hear about the various rules coming in and potential things, and it would have been the 3-point line way back when, now it might be the shot clock coming in, is there an official's take on the shot clock being a pro or con, or does it depend on a certain individual that's an official?
I think it's an individual take, okay? Do we need a shot clock on lower level varsity games and a girls game, where the score is going to be 38 to, 15 or something like that? Do we need that? No. And what else you have to think about is you're going to have to pay to install the shot clock.
Oh, I think about all those things. And
you're going to have
someone
to
that can run it,
pay
knows what the
to
heck
someone
to do.
who knows what to do.
It's going to be a former referee.
I've been involved in women's college basketball for a long time, and in the last 3 years, we've added the shot clock and different kind of rules involving that. And the first year, it was a nightmare as far as getting people to know when to reset the shot clock, when not to reset it, what to set it to. It was a nightmare. And it took a good 2 or 3 years before they became competent at it. And I think in high school, just what you said, you're going to have to pay another person to do that. You're going to have to pay for the equipment.
And it's going to get busted in gym class. I mean, we know some of those things.
Yes.
I think back to 100 years ago when I was an assistant for Denny Fox at Cardinal Stritch. With Rich Pinnell, him being on the girls' side, and John Faffel's a kid a person I grew up with. We went to the same grade school. Now we're 50-year-old men, and
John's a good guy too.
He's wonderful.
He's a good guy too.
And I think of the shot clock operator there was also the PA announcer. He did both way back then. He was so good. But I think about those pieces when we go to see different games. And Randy Casey, the coach at MATC that plays at Alverno, is a kid that I recruited out of a junior college at Sturts, and we played for us, and then we coached together for a little while as well. And I see those mistakes happen on that shot clock because there's a judgment piece, and you have to be a little bit of a basketball nut, but you can't. It's almost like being at the scorer's table, whether the clock or the book. You can't enjoy the game.
Well, that's
it's a job, and all you're doing is watching your job.
It's a tougher job than it looks, okay? And I've seen people operate the game clock and the shot clock, and that is a nightmare too. Okay, but
and then what they're getting paid for is just peanuts. And Lord forbid they push the wrong button. Start the clock or stop the clock.
The clock's not running. That's all the things that we talk about as officials. Let's get that before that voice in the stand starts yelling, "The clock's not running." Let's recognize that beforehand. So clock management, awareness, all of those things.
Those are good points. I want to get back to the game management piece in just a second. Once again, our guest is Mike Stiedl. Boy, as I learned, he's a school teacher for quite some time, and probably an official now for longer than he was a school teacher. But we'll have to see how the addition and subtraction works for that.
Yeah.
I think about the game management pieces, and we have such pleasant, and you've done volleyball up by us, we have such pleasant people in my athletic secretary and athletic assistant, whomever else, and it doesn't matter basketball or football, whatever the case is, we want the officials in football to be escorted both directions, and make sure that it's good that way. The locker room, I always joke with them, the officials for hoops, except for the girls' basketball tournament when we use all 4 locker rooms, we have a big locker room for them, and the officials are one of the reasons I got the Fayed locker room to have new lockers. Because, as I explained to them, they've been there 25 years, the lockers. So they were torn up and they were just, it looked junky. And I explained, when people come in the building, they're not seeing the science lab. They're seeing the field house, they're seeing the entrance, they're seeing the locker rooms. And so we do a thorough once through with the restrooms and the showers and everything else. And we always bring chairs in and little name badges and different things that way, just to, like you said before, feel welcome. And so people can shower, the showers are clean. And we don't want to get weird on the show, but the reason we bring chairs in is because I don't think 3 of us should be sitting on that table after the shower or whatever the case is.
Right.
You know, just being able to spread out, be comfortable, and know that when you walk out, if there's some touchy things, you're also going to be escorted out.
The officials room can't be a 6x6 for 3 officials, and we're squeezed in there. Officials like to go where they feel welcome.
Right.
You know, when I see Watertown on my contract, yeah, I like going to
That's
Watertown.
the hope for every sport.
Yes, I like going to Watertown. I like going here. I like going there. Oh, here.
Because we also know it's a drive for people to
Yes.
come out this far too.
Yes.
Where it's a lot easier for someone, just as easy to go 5 minutes from their house, you know, versus making the drive out to here.
You know, there are several schools you go to. Well, can we take a shower? Well, you can, but you have to wait until the team exits the lot.
That's not good.
You know, that's not how it's supposed to be. You know.
But I do say we do have that exception with the girls' tournament when
Of
we have all
course.
4 locker rooms.
You know,
the one time a year.
Yes,
over
that
Christmas.
situation, I get it, okay? But in a regular season game in January,
No.
I don't want to have to wait, to 15 or 20
Shouldn't
extra
have to
minutes
wait, no.
to shower until the team gets out of the locker room. No, that shouldn't happen.
You know, so what are some of the things, besides the size or the shower, what are some of the things as we become more, I guess we network as ADs and
Right.
different things, what are some of the golden things that don't go well when officials come into places, from being greeted or welcomed, or what are things that aren't so good sometimes?
Well, just that, not being greeted, walking. If I've never been to a school before, where do I go? Okay, where are the locker rooms? Okay, to have someone standing there, walking in with a smile on their face, and I always try to, have a smile on my face, be friendly. We're the officials. Introduce myself. Oh yeah, okay. Here's the locker room. We'll be stationed right here if you need someone. Okay, just the little things that so I don't have to look for game management. If there's a problem with a parent or something, I don't have to search for them. I just want to feel welcome at your facility, okay? That you're glad to see us, that we're glad to be there. One of the things that as officials that we do, that we should do, is I'm going to call your office. If we're on a Friday game, I'm going to call your office on Wednesday and Thursday and say, here are the officials, we're confirming we're going to be there. Because that's one less thing that you have to worry about, right? I mean, I can imagine there's, are the officials showing up? Are the officials
I'll tell
going
you,
to be
Mike,
there?
we're so flippant, we're just obsessed with it on the front end, where, obviously you get the Our School
Yep.
thing for people that have it. But I'd say that Kelly probably within 3 days before will call everybody
Yep.
and get a verbal, and we'll check mark it on the contract. That's what we do with part of the greeting, is being able to sign the contract right there too. But I know we're obsessed with it, but we haven't had, things work out bad. I'm knocking on wood there. But I think that same thing, that's appreciated when officials call and say, hey, we'll be arriving at this certain time, 2 of us will be together, or 3 of us will be together, or we're all coming separately.
One less
Whatever
thing
the
you have
case
to worry
is.
about, right? One less thing. Sometimes you go to a school and all of a sudden the game is played, and 3 days later you get an email from the school, oh, we need a W-9, okay, in order for us to pay. Well, couldn't you have told us that before?
Absolutely.
Prior, okay, so that we know. Because most of the time I say, is there anything I need to do to be paid, okay?
Right.
Fill out a form, you have a W-9 for me, whatever it might be. But sometimes it's just an assumption that, oh, this is going to go fine, and then all of a sudden, oh, well, I get better call the school. I give a school a month, okay? And after 4 weeks, I'm going to call the school.
Right.
And there's nothing more deflating than having them say, well, we were waiting for your W-9.
Yeah, that's poppycock.
Well,
That's not good.
What do you... So, yeah, just taking care of us.
Let's change it to in-game. And we're really fortunate in Watertown when it comes to basketball, because the person that was just on our chain gang finished his 50th year in football. And so his 2 sons do it as well, and then we've gradually mixed people in, but he just retired. But he also does our scorers table. And I think he's on his 49th year he just finished. So he's coming up on his 50th on the scorers table. And we have a woman that's probably about 30 years as well. I think the experience at I want you to elaborate on this a little bit, but I think our experience at the scorers table is invaluable when it comes to the officials aspect.
Absolutely, okay. There's 3, they're part of our team, the officials team. And when I walk out on the court or go over to tableside, make sure I introduce myself, make sure I know their names. It's much easier to say, if you're the scorer, Jamie, is that the 4th foul or the 5th foul, rather than saying, hey, you know.
Right.
So I want to make them feel that they're part of our team, because they can make you look bad sometimes,
Right.
you know, and if they're not paying attention, or they're, you know, I'm reporting a foul and I look over and the scorer is going, you know, shaking his head at me or something like that. Can't have that, okay?
Right.
You know, we have to produce a unified product, so to speak, and having a good table is invaluable, okay, invaluable.
You know, we try hard, we struggle at the lower level sometimes, because it's only a one game. Like out here, we don't have a triple header, so we'd have our JV and JV2 at the same time. So that you know, our JV does our varsity, and they just continue on. But it's sometimes hard to get people for that one game, because it's not very profitable dollar-wise. You know, you think about officiating when you did it younger, there's a money component to it, but there was a bigger passion piece to officials, whereas now, there's a money aspect that's involved.
There's no one would do it for free. You know, no one would, but you want to do it for a pay that is commensurate with your ability to do that. When I first started doing varsity basketball, it was $25 a game, you know, and now we're up to $65, $70, $75, $80 a game. But the southeastern portion of Wisconsin is woefully underpaid when you look at some of the areas in the north and northeast section. You know, they're making $110 a game, you know, and we're making $65, $70 a game. So no one would do it for nothing, but I want to feel like, you know, the pay is commensurate with my experience and what I give you. You know, there's no other sport, no other activity where it doesn't matter if you're 25 years in or 1 year in, you're going to get the same pay. That doesn't work. That's not how it works in the real world.
Right.
You know,
Sure
right?
isn't.
You know, if you're working 25 years and I'm working 1 year, you're going to make a little bit more money than I am.
I think about that all the time when there's various aspects of things, for whether it can even be the coaching world or wherever, no matter how hard you work. Or think of your years as a school teacher.
Yep.
You know, you could be your 3rd year in, but really be rocking it and be extending, or you could be at the 30th year in and be incredible. And if it wasn't for the different longevity of the pay's not that different.
Yep.
You know, so it has to be an intrinsic motivation, both in the classroom and officiating and coaching, because it has to be yourself, because you're not going to get compensated accordingly based on how good you are or your effort.
Yeah.
You know, which is it's too bad. It's
just
not fair. It's reality.
Yes, that's the way it is.
So as we get close to wrapping up the show, we talked so much about the official piece. What are some things schools can do to help with the retaining piece, so the growth and the development can happen from freshman to JV and eventually higher, or middle school to high school?
You know,
Is it
and
parents
we,
or crowd?
you know, it's a fair question and an accurate question. I think one of the things that schools can do is, if you have a way to contact an official, maybe have them come into a Phi Ed class or whatever and talk to players about potentially being officials. Not many of those players are going to go on and play at the next level, but they still love the game, and here's a chance to stay involved in the game, make a little extra cash, but still have that foothold in the game. So I think schools can reach out to local associations, local officials, and just have, could you send someone over, you know, and during gym class for a half hour or whatever, and you know, we'll tell you about the advantages of officiating and what it's like, and what you could do to stay involved in the game, because that's what we're looking for, is people who have a passion for the game and people who want to stay involved one way or the other. Even parents, you know, their kids are done playing, you know, and they're 40, 45 years old, their kids are done playing. Parents are a good source of potential officials.
Not just because they've been doing it from the 12th row either.
Well, you know, parents are we've created a monster with parents, and the things they yell at you and they speak to you. What I would like more fans to do in a situation, if there's a parent who is belligerently out of control, say something to that parent.
Right.
Say something to them, okay? They're screaming and yelling and whatever they're doing, say something to them.
But instead, their spouse or significant other will just sit somewhere else, or the friend will just kind of move away. And I think that's one of the things I'm proud about is out here is our officials don't have to deal with a lot of that hocus pocus, because we make eye contact. Usually we'll go to the scorer's table. Like, you could go to the scorer's table and say, Rayanne, tell Jamie the guy in the blue sweatshirt's got to go.
Yep.
And then she'll call me on the radio. We'll do it discreetly. It'll never be coming from the referee then, or the official. And there's ways to handle it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes, your game management, and I don't know how many people you have on game management during a game, but sometimes they need to be able to see that. And I shouldn't have to tell them,
right,
that guy over there,
right,
they should be able to see that. And,
we spend so much time on our student sections that sometimes the adult piece, you hope it was taking care of itself.
Yes.
Just a little bit. As we wrap the show up here, I think it was our boys program, but I think our memory goes a little bit with age too. But Kenny Kester came out and talked to that to our preseason boys meeting this year. And it was as much with the rules. I bought a rule book for like the nine things
Yep.
for everyone there, so everyone could go through. He could go through them with them, and also talk about that piece. Hey, those of you that have seniors or will have seniors, it's a way for you to stay in the game, and kind of that message as well. And I think that's a helpful thing, because the kids hear it, like the things like the calls that they don't understand.
Right.
And things like that.
And I think parents don't even think about that until it might be brought up to them. Well, maybe I could do that, or maybe,
And if not, we could get them at the scorer's table. We'd be just as happy there, just to have
someone involved, yes, because those guys aren't going to be there forever.
No, they sure aren't.
Absolutely, there's got to be that turnover, that new blood. But I'm still excited to be an official, and I'm more excited to help people achieve their goals, and that's what we're trying to do right now.
Good. That's a great way to end the show. Once again, our guest is Mike Stiedl. Certainly a lengthy career as an official and school teacher beforehand, and the official career is going on, and now it's bounced over to volleyball to gain some experience there at the same time. This concludes another edition of Sports Talk. Until next time, keep talking sports. Mike, thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure, Jamie. Thank you.